Today we play with the webcam. So my plan is to teach you how to access the webcam, basically the stream of images coming from the webcam, and draw them on the canvas. And we will use the same kind of animation technique to show the images quickly, one after the other. So basically you get the sense of motion. And I'm also thinking to make some simple effects. I'm not sure what these are going to be, but maybe something like grayscale or mirroring the pixels or something like this we could try. You can also think of some ideas what we might try meanwhile. And yeah, let's start. So I will begin with the simple file, empty file, basically what we did in the very first lecture of this course. And you can see on the right here, empty page, empty HTML page with the simple canvas. And the code at the moment is just this remove overlay. Otherwise, it's going to tell me this title of what we are doing today, and I need to click on it to see the canvas. So I'm removing this overlay by force so that I don't have to click that every time I refresh the page. Okay, so the first thing that we do to get the image information from the webcam is we will need something called a promise. It's a new type of object in JavaScript that allows you to call some function, wait for a response, and then when you have the response, do something else. So it's something similar like a callback function, but the way that we are accessing now this device, we have to use this promise nowadays. And I will show you how this is done. Let's make a function for initializing camera. Maybe we call it like that. And this function is going to now use this type of promise object to get the information from the webcam. So I can do something like it's navigator, and then there were multiple media devices, media, and you can request, I think, also the audio, but we only need the video here. So if you write this code, what essentially means is that you are trying to get the information from your media device, which is this webcam. It could be that you have multiple devices and you would need to figure out another way to access each one individually. Like maybe your phone has a front camera and a back camera. You could actually choose which one you want to use through code, but this gives you a default one that I'm going to use. And this promise works like this. So it has a then part, which accepts here a function that will be called when something has been finalized. And I will explain what that means soon enough. And this function that is going to come here will have basically the camera signal, so the information that comes from the camera itself to work with. We will see what we do with that soon. But this promise can also fail. I will make it clear what this means when we test it, but for now, note that when you try to access the camera, maybe it fails. So I'm going to try to catch this error and give another callback function here. Maybe I just log, or let's alert it, because user should know also about this, and user maybe doesn't have the console open. So let's alert camera error. So this is how we get the signal. And here we can actually use the signal in some way. And this is actually very easy to do because the HTML code nowadays supports also a video tag. So for example, I could say here ID my video and simply put the signal into this my video tag here and it will work. So it's really that easy to get the data from the webcam nowadays. We can try it. But ultimately, I will teach you how to put this video on a canvas, which is a little bit more to work with. But for now, let's just try this. So let's say video is equal to document get element by ID my video. Oh boy. Seems like my keyboard still has this problem for some reason. And I have to give it the source to be this signal, which is coming from the callback given to the promise for the user media value. So a little bit need to think of all the stuff that is happening here, but yeah. And then we have to play it. And I think that's it. I'm not sure if this will work, but let's see. I'm having some errors. Yeah, here this callback function that I'm having inside of the catch needs to be, the catch needs to be closed, this closing bracket here. Usually it's not a good idea to have these callback functions like this. I prefer to give them names and just call them, declare them somewhere here. But now they are so short that I think this is okay. So let's see this again. Okay, so now I can explain what this promise is. So this promise is basically requesting access to get the media from the camera. And the code here inside this then is only going to execute if I press this allow button. I'm not sure if you see this. Oh, I think you don't see this. Okay, so you can't see this because for some reason the browser, the screen sharing system doesn't show this pop-up, but somewhere here, I will try, maybe if I remember to edit this in the video at the end. But somewhere here, I am being asked by the browser, this file wants to use your camera, allow or block. And if I press here block, I'm going to get another pop-up. I'm not sure if you see this one, but it says camera error.
This we see.
Okay. Yeah. So this is because I blocked the camera when this promise tried to execute. So I didn't allow it, and then it went into this catch part. But if I press allow, so now I'm refreshing the page, and I will press this allow button that you don't see, but I promise it's there. Then my video pops up here. So this video now is part of the my video element in the browser. So in the HTML that I declared here, and I assume you can see this. Yeah.
Back that video on the HTML page crashes the bitrate of the stream.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a half of the frames that we see.
Okay, good. So well, not good, but you can see the video, right? It works.
Yeah, but it's a bit choppy.
Okay. Well, anyway, this I'm not going to use this method today. So actually, I'm going to remove this video element from here because my goal is to paste this video inside the canvas. So not to use some video tag in HTML to just display the video. I want to put it on the canvas where I can process it with all the methods that we have studied so far. Like I could draw lines on top of it, I could get pixel values, I could do things with the video images in the canvas. And to do that, I'm going to first remove the video tag from here. It's not needed. I don't need it to exist part of the DOM. And because this element doesn't exist here as that I could retrieve it, I'm going to use the same trick I did in the hit testing code from the buttons and basically create an element here. I think it's like this. Create element, create a video element. And let's make this video a global variable that I can access later and draw the information from it onto the canvas. So let's say like that. So now my video is there. The code is going to ask me for this video. Let me just refresh this page. It asks me allow or block. I'm going to press block now, and I'm getting camera error. And now I refresh the page, I'm pressing allow, and the video is actually there, is playing. I'm not sure if you can't see, but in my browser, I'm sorry?
We can see it.
Yeah, you cannot see it. So the video is not being displayed anywhere because this video element that I'm creating here, it's not appearing anywhere. It's not shown anywhere as before. So now I'm going to use it to draw on the canvas. But before that, can you tell me if you still notice this bad quality frame rate that you mentioned before?
It's okay now.
Okay, so I think that showing it in that video tag takes much of my memory and makes it lag basically. So even though now it is taking the information from the camera as we speak, it is not so demanding without displaying it somewhere. So it's something that you can keep in mind. And you can actually see here in the URL link a small camera icon in the browser indicating that my camera is actually on. So it is using the camera, it's just not showing it. So now let's see how we display it. How we display it on the canvas. Yes.
I don't quite understand the signal variable. I don't understand when we define it, and I don't understand the function inside the promise. Then, like, what is the
Yes. So this this callback function here that is going to be part of this promise, it's actually a callback function that the media device itself, the API, is going to execute, and it has the signal. So this callback function signal parameter from here comes from your webcam basically. But the promise decides when this can be executed after the user has pressed the allow button on the page. So this function is called by the camera. You can think about it like that, with the camera signal. So it's something like a black box happening inside the media API, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me open also the chat here on Teams. I think some people are writing something. So Maybe. I think that it could be reconstructed with this async. Yeah, async. Wait, this I'm not very familiar with this syntax, but I think Tommy knows better. So you could reconstruct it like this as well. I'm pretty sure, and you can try. So yeah, but basically the same way that this error also comes here as part of the promise parameter. So I think that you could display this error as well, the same way the signal comes from the camera. So it's something kind of a black box happening inside the media device API. Okay, so where were we? To draw things on the canvas, right? So I'm gonna actually do similar thing as before. I'm gonna make an animate function. And maybe I'm gonna use the set interval method because I want it to have a lower frame rate so that my computer doesn't get overwhelmed. So let's try set interval. And I'm gonna put here a callback, and I will execute this, let's say 10 times per second. So and every time I'm gonna have the same kind of functions as last time, the draw scene and on a context. So let's figure out how these are done. And so we need to initialize the canvas. This is something I don't have at the moment. I've been doing these before, so now I just type it. It's, I think, good to remind how this is done. Right. So I also need to initialize this canvas. And let's give it a size. I'm going to use a smaller size than usual, just hoping that my computer won't lag too much. So let's see, let's try 300 pixels here. And to draw the scene, I need to have access to the canvas. So usually I have these also as global variables. Okay. And here I prefer to work with just the context of the canvas so that I don't do canvas get context everywhere. So right. And in the draw scene, I'm gonna do something really, really easy. I'm gonna say context draw image. So you may have used this function before. I don't remember if we used it, but if you load a PNG or JPEG or whatever image, you can use this. And now instead of giving it a PNG source, I'm going to give it the video. Basically, if I'm going to call this draw scene 10 times per second, it's going to take the most recent image in that video automatically. So this is actually magic. Like the code is doing a lot of things in the background. We just don't see it. And I think that this draw image just needs a X and a Y where to start the image on the canvas from. And this should be it. So let's see if this works. It's asking me for permission. I press allow. And I'm getting many errors. Okay, something actually works, but I am getting some errors here. Okay, yeah, I'm getting many errors because I'm trying to draw the video on the canvas without the video existing. So here, basically, the video is null in the beginning, and it becomes something only here after you click allow in the browser. So there's no point really to try to draw the video information on the canvas context before it's initialized to something. This could also be replaced with something like show a loading screen or initializing text or something like that. You should actually do something like this so that the person knows that something will appear there, just not yet. But now we won't be getting these 72 errors. They were basically 72 because that's how long it took me to press the allow button. So now there are no errors appearing there, and I'm pressing allow. It takes some time for it to initialize, and yeah, it's basically the video being shown on this canvas, and it's probably not what you expect. So one of the reasons why it's cropped to just show the top left part, it's because of the canvas size. So this canvas size has 300 pixels here. If I'm gonna put more, maybe 500 pixels, then it shows more of me. Basically, I'm not stretching this video in any way, and whatever quality image comes from my webcam, it's gonna try to put it on a canvas of 500 by 500 pixels. I also remind you that my canvas is stretched in CSS, so it appears to be the same size always, but it is actually quite small with 300 pixels, for example. So here, if I don't do this stretching, this is its real size. And if I do maybe just 100 pixels, then this is basically my wall. I'm not even part of the image because this is the top left corner of the stream that is coming from the camera. So I'm not sure if I can, do something there, but that's the top left corner basically. Okay, but let's get back to 300 by 300 pixels and try to fit the image in a more reasonable way, no matter the size of the canvas. So that's what I'm going to teach you next. It's how to show the image on any size canvas by squishing it or stretching it where necessary. So to do that, I actually am going to teach you a cropping trick. So I want to keep this square part in the middle of the image coming from the webcam. And in some browsers, if you actually try to stretch the image without doing this cropping part, it could work directly. But I'm gonna teach you now a method that for me works on most browsers, actually on all browsers that I have tested this. And the way you do this for it to work, you first need to calculate the minimum value of between the horizontal and the vertical size of the image coming from the webcam. And that's going to be the length of this square. So whatever the minimum value is, in this case, it is the height of this rectangle. And if your image comes from a vertical camera, like maybe when you hold your phone up straight, then it could be the horizontal, the width of the image is the minimum value. And then you also have to offset it from the left with half this difference between the width and the height. And if the image comes vertically, then the offset is going to come vertical instead. So I want to teach this because depending on your webcam, you could have very many different aspect ratios. And if you don't do this, on most browsers, you will see that it tries to squish it inside the canvas when you attempt to resize the image. So this method that I'm going to show you now to crop the inside part of the image seems to work quite well. And I'm going to try to code this part, and you can ask me questions if you don't understand something. So I'm going to get basically first this minimum value. So it is, I can just use the minimum method from this math library, and I take it from the video. So this is part of the video. And right, and now those values that I marked there, SX and SY, it's basically the video width, so minus this minimum value and divided by 2, because it's going to be half on one side and half on the other side. And the same goes for the height. Note that here, if the width is larger than the height, then this SY is going to be 0. It basically doesn't exist. And the same thing happens for this SX. So no matter what aspect ratio you have, one of these is also going to be 0, is always going to be 0, and the other one will make the difference. And this draw image function here can actually accept more parameters. It can accept where you want to start to take the pixels from. So in this case, I'm going to start at this SX from the left and SY from the top. And then I'm going to take minimum amount of pixels to the right and minimum amount of pixels on the bottom. So these are extra parameters that tell you where to take the information from. And I still keep these. Basically 0, 0 still tells that I want to put it on the canvas in the top left corner of the canvas, which is 0, 0. But I can also tell it to stretch. So I could tell it to stretch to fill the size of the constant that we defined here in the top. So what happens here is essentially cropping the image so that it starts a little bit from the left in my case, because it's a wide aspect ratio, and keeping just the square section in the middle, but stretching it no matter what my canvas size is. So many things happening here that you may need to think a little bit about, but the end result is hopefully this. So even though the image from the camera actually has a little bit more stuff to the side, it's not a square aspect ratio on my camera, it keeps just the middle part of the camera image on this canvas. And if I'm gonna make now, for example, my canvas size, let's say 30 pixels, then not only that it keeps the middle part of the image, but it also stretches the image to the 30 by 30 pixel canvas, which is something really, really small like this. But because of my CSS stretching, I could see it larger here. So basically, I'm now showing the pixels larger than necessary. I'm zooming in on a very, very low resolution photo or video in this case. So is this clear or is this confusing? And am I still connected and can you still hear me? And
Yes,
Mostly clear. Yeah.
it's clear on my side.
okay, I'm using these lower values for the size because I want not to overwhelm the processor here. So
One question.
yeah.
How does it work if it's SX and SY? There are no semicolon.
It's the magic of JavaScript. So I actually think that I'm not 100% sure, but I think that at some point JavaScript stopped demanding semicolons at the end of the lines. Actually, you could remove the semicolons everywhere. Don't quote me on this, but I do remember that at some point you had to have them. And at some point, for example, if you declared an object, like let's say something like this, and you would say something like a value for X, a value for Y, and then you had a comma here at the end, this would give a very bad error and break the whole system, but nowadays it works. I really have to say that the language changes. The language changes, and the semicolon at the end, I think, is not necessary. It's similar to Python. I put it because I'm not actually a JavaScript developer, and also when I write JavaScript, it's not like people would complain that why are you using var here? It's obsolete now. You should use these, and why are you not using this these kind of notations for the functions and things like that. So JavaScript guys know better ways to program that are in line with the modern JavaScript. But I don't really teach JavaScript here. I want to teach different algorithms and different methods in general. So I keep the syntax as familiar to as many of you as possible. So
Well, according to my knowledge, this semicolon, as you said, was could be, what do you say? It was okay not to use it at some point, as you said, according to my knowledge. But it's a good habit to put it there because there are some times that it is required. Sometimes.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you pointed out because I can't without it.
Yes, but
it's
a good habit
yeah.
to put it there because sometimes there are times that it's required.
Yes, okay, good.
A semicolon there, but it's not all the time. But it's a good habit.
Very
according
good.
to my knowledge.
Okay, very good to know. I put it here. I forgot to put it here, so in my mind, this was actually a bug, and yeah. But good question. So yeah, thank you. I'm not sure I answered it properly, and I don't trust my answer. Like I actually don't know if there was some time when this was required in JavaScript. I'm not 100% sure. But the languages do change, and things like what are written here in the chat, like what Tony is mentioning, these could actually be even better ways of doing stuff. Like these promises were added relatively recently. This async await is also a more recent technique. I don't know some of these very well. Yeah, okay. I think that whenever you have questions about JavaScript, I think Tony is the guy to ask there. So he may know better than me. But yeah.
Semicolon is always needed, but the new JavaScript engine tries to guess if a semicolon is needed or not. So there are times when semicolon is okay and not okay. So language tries to do its best to answer the problem.
Okay. Well, it could be like that, but if the language does a good job at guessing where to put it and where not, I mean where the line should end, then basically it's not needed anymore. So it depends. But I would put it. I think Lydia maybe recommended that it should be put, and I think it should be put because it used to be like this. Many languages are like this, so it makes it clear when the line has ended here, and should move to the next one. Okay. Yeah. Next. Well, very good question. So has JavaScript ever made sense? I don't know. I think some things in JavaScript are very, very complicated, and I try to avoid things like closures or well, the fact that you don't have types for data is something everybody makes fun of, or if you don't practice with it very much or read the documentations, then you don't know what will happen if you do something like this. Is it going to do a conversion from this number into a string? And will the result be something like that? Or is it going to convert 1 to 3 into a number? And will the result be something like that? So these are questions that unless you really study well or try it out, you don't know what JavaScript is going to do in these cases. So it's a permissive language. It shows less errors than other systems, other languages, if you would try to do something like that. But it's also a problem because if you are not familiar with all of those small little tricks, and I have to say, I don't know the answer to that question. If you're not familiar with all of these things, bugs appear. Code works, but bugs appear. You expect 500 something instead of the other number, and you don't know why. You have to start debugging everything. So it's a permissive language. It allows some freedom there, and you don't have to do everything perfectly, like these semicolons at the end. But it comes with the price, so be careful. Okay. Yeah. Well, Java and JavaScript are as similar as car is to carpet. So kind of good point there. Okay. Yeah. Let's go on. So we are now showing the image on the canvas. Yay! It's great. It's being displayed there. But can we do something with it? I mean, it's boring at the moment. It's just drawing the image there. How about applying some kind of apply some effect on it? And what could this effect do? So this is now interesting. So you could actually get to the pixel level on the image. So every time you're drawing a new updated image from this webcam on the canvas, you could get each individual pixel information. And from my point of view, if you can do that, you can essentially do anything you want with the data. So if you do have pixel level information, you could, I don't know, make it grayscale. You could make it invert the colors. You could extract features. You could do gesture recognition. You could do face detection. You could do eye tracking. You could do basically anything. The only problem is, are these methods going to be fast enough, especially because your processor is limited even more by this running the JavaScript code in the browser. JavaScript is not a compiled language, it's an interpreted language. So basically, even though you could theoretically do all of these things, can you do all of them in real time as the image is moving with the language that is not as efficient as other programming languages are? So you could do them, but they may lag. So let's try to do some simple things and get the image data from this context. I'm pretty sure we did this. We got the image data from a single pixel. So we were getting the image data of a pixel where we were clicking previously to have the button hit test collision detection. But now I'm going to get the pixel data for the entire canvas. So basically, I want all the pixels from this canvas. And I will remind a little bit how this looks like. So let's log it. And maybe I'm gonna, let's just log it in the console and see what we are getting here. We are getting these kind of things. Basically, a very long array of 40,000 elements. This 40,000 is the width multiplied by the height multiplied by 4. So this array that you see here, these values correspond to the top left first pixel in the image. Is it there? Maybe. And this is the red value of that. This is the red value of that pixel, very first pixel, green value, blue value, and the alpha value. So alpha is the opacity. All of them will have 255 value for the opacity. I think it's possible to have some videos with transparent pixels, maybe like related to green screen images. I don't know if some cameras are able to do the green screen effect inside the hardware, but maybe. So in theory, you could have transparent pixels in videos as well. But these values, you can see they are very close to white. They are all very close to 255 because on my background there, it is kind of white. If I move something, I guess my shirt there, and I clear the console for new values to come, then this first pixel on the top left corner is now having values closer to black. So my hand there basically affected the values from this first pixel. And that's what we are going to do now. I'm going to try to put these into some nicer format than this 40,000 element array, which is very hard to iterate. I'm going to make a simple 2D matrix with X, Y values as we are traversing this image data object. So note that image data has another attribute inside it for data there. Let's just try to do something about it. And meanwhile, I disabled the console logging because it's taking a lot of resources from my browser here. I actually don't need this anymore. So let's also reference this data directly so I don't have to type it every time I need to. And I'm going to write two for loops. I'm going to say a y component starts at 0. Okay, actually, I want it to go all the way down to the size. So like that. So basically all the possible y values from 0 to the size, and same for x. But what is the value of this pixel at x and y? So to get the value of the pixel from at x and y, you have to use a little bit of math. So I'm going to try to write this as an object. Let's see. So the red value is going to be the very first value according to x and y, and this basically grouping the things as groups as 4 has to also be taken into account. So I'm going to say here data of y multiplied by size plus x. This is now telling me in that array how much I have to go to find the pixel at x and y, but because they are groups of 4, I also have to multiply this by 4. So this is something that you need to think a little bit. I don't have proper slides to explain this. I did send you last time a video where I explained this better, and maybe you watch that for the exercises. So yeah, and the red value is actually the first element in this at starting at this location, and then the green value is the following one. So basically the same coordinate here, but immediately the value immediately afterwards, and blue and alpha. So this is essentially the pixel value at x and y. I'm not sure if this is clear or not, but I prefer to do something nicer here. So encapsulate this behavior and say something like maybe get pixel value at x and y, and a given data, image data here. Maybe something like this would be cleaner and nicer. No need to worry about it. And I'm gonna copy this in a new function. Let's see. Okay, this. Okay. Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is clear what I did, but basically for each of these values, I could obtain the pixel components for the red, green, and blue channels and alpha channels. And if I want to maybe do the grayscale effect, I could essentially try averaging these three values. So maybe I'm going to consider what is the average light intensity coming from these three small pixel light bulbs basically inside this pixel value. And I could say the average is equal to the red component plus the green component plus the blue component. So this is one thing that I could do, and divide that by 3. So basically it's going to tell me if they are all maximum, like 255, then this is going to be 255, and that would mean white. But any other decrease, like if you have red and green maximum but blue is minimum, then my average is going to get lower. It's going to be 100 something, and that will correspond to some gray value. So this would be average value there. And if I want to put this average value inside the image data for the red, green, and blue components, I could modify this array, for example. So let's see, how does this go? I basically need the same coordinates from here. So I want to replace the red component with this new average value. And same goes for the green and blue. This is basically going to make my image into some kind of grayscale image, because the red, green, and blue value of the X, Y, and pixel are equal to the average value of what was previously coming from the pixel at that location. So hope you understand this. I think I explained it quite bad, but I also need to use this put image data method here, so that under context I basically replace what was given with the initial image coming from the camera with this new one that I have edited here programmatically. So I put it starting at 0, 0, top left corner. Let's see if this works, and I can try to explain it later again if it's not clear. Okay. So you should see it that it basically lost the color. So I did a manipulation here on this data object, this image data object, and I changed all the properties, all the pixel values to have the same red, green, and blue value, and the value is the average value of what was previously there. So I'm not sure if this is really clear or not, but that's what the code is doing. A little bit side note is that color is complicated. So this, what I'm doing here, is actually not complicated. It's quite basic, but human color perception is very complicated, and people see colors differently from each other and interpret colors differently from each other. Some people look at two colors and think that they are similar, but other people may look at them and see them different. And this is not just people that have some kind of visual problem like this color blindness, but in general, color perception is very, very different. And if you read the literature, you will see that there is a better way to do this averaging, putting here some kind of weights for red, weights for green, and weights for blue, but I don't want to go into such details. It is an interesting field, and that's why we have a full team at UEF that is doing this color science. So all the things, color science, speech processing is part of this, signal processing. We were covering this sound generation last time. So each of these have are basically, you can see them as introductions into into signal processing or image processing here, what we are doing now. So we are just scratching the surface, but you could go very deep into these techniques.
Radu?
Okay, yes.
I have a question. We did modify data, and I don't understand why printing image data will make them gray, as we didn't modify image data and only data.
Very good question. We did. So data is actually a reference to ImageData.data here. So I could have basically pasted here ImageData.data everywhere. Its values inside of this ImageData.data are changing when I am writing these this thing here. That's how JavaScript works, because it works with references here.
Okay, it's like the list with Python, and sometimes it modifies the reference list, and you have to copy if you don't want to. Or
yeah. So if you would like not to do this thing here, not to modify the values, then you would need to somehow deep copy this in a different object. Yeah, so the reason I'm doing here, the reason why I'm doing here data is equal to that, it's just so that I shortened the code a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I think it's a very good question, and it's something that can be quite confusing. Okay, so that's it. This is some effect. Let's make a little nicer application here. Let's make some effect switch based on the effect. Let's say that our effect I think that switch case works with strings as well in JavaScript. We have some things that I don't really remember, but let's see. If we get this gray, then I'm going to say apply grayscale on the context and break. But maybe we want to do something else, maybe invert the colors. So now I'm gonna rename this apply some effect function to apply grayscale, and I'm going to copy it to make a similar function called apply color invert, and I'm going to switch my effect to, well, let's just keep it now gray for the moment to test if this code works. Yeah, so nothing is different, but now let me change it to this invert and modify it a little bit. So this apply color invert, I don't need the average here anymore. I just need the pixel values. And for the red, I'm going to say the pixel red value, but inverted. So 255 minus the red value is going to give me the inverted value relative to the maximum of this 255 there. And I'm going to do the same for the green and blue. So basically now I'm not replacing them with the average, I'm replacing them with the opposite color, if you will, opposite in terms of this RGB notation. And let's see what we get now. Yeah, beautiful. It starts to look nice. So this is not blue anymore. And I am pretty much black and white opposite colors because I don't have many colors in this scene, but very easy to get this color inverting effect down. Let's try something funnier. Let's try symmetry. I want to make my image so that the half on the left is going to repeat on the right, as if in the middle here there will be some kind of mirror. So symmetry relative to this middle axis here. Let's see if we can do that. And I will figure out a way how to make this effect change. Maybe clicking on the canvas could toggle this effect in the end, so that we can go through the different effects that we create today. So let's try this symmetry now. I'm gonna copy this function, and can you think how we are gonna do this? So I basically, let's do it horizontally, so that the pixels on the right take the values of the pixels on the left. So we need to play with this x value, I think. Any ideas? Nothing?
Should we run 2 loops, one for the left side and one for the right, and switch?
I don't think that we need to switch twice. I think that we basically need to run only for the half on the right and take the values from the left and copy them. Maybe I'm not sure, but maybe something like starting at the middle point. So basically, I want to just modify half the image. If I refresh the page now, then you can see what happens is that the invert effect, because I copied that function to make this new one, is only applied on half the pixels. So it's kind of funny, but I don't want now to do this half invert effect. I want to copy. So these pixels that I'm changing here, I want to change them with the values from here. Yeah, so now I'm still changing them with the same values of the same x and y coordinate, but I would need to look at the x and y coordinate of the point that is on the left half. So I think that I need to change this x value somehow, because now I'm only processing the x's on the right half, but I want the values to come from the left half. So how would I do that? What would happen if I do here that? And okay, probably it would crash, but that. And I'm not gonna do this inverting anymore. Basically, I take the pixel value at x minus size divided by 2. So when x is size divided by 2, it takes the value from 0. And then when x becomes size, it will take the value at size divided by 2. So actually, it's not going to mirror it, but it's essentially going to copy it exactly on the second half. Let's Let's see. So basically, I have a twin in the image, but this is not what I want. I actually want something else. Any ideas? So I would like my hand to appear here and to be mirrored compared to this middle section here. How could I do that?
Could you put, instead of the x minus size divided by 2, you can put size divided by 2 and minus x?
Oh, okay. Interesting. I could try.
And of course, put the brackets in the size divided by 2.
You think that it will not do this first before minus x?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it would be 2 minus x.
Could be. I actually don't know, and I think that what you are suggesting makes sense. So if you don't know what the order of operations is, better specify parentheses. Actually, some languages have different methods used. I mean, different order of operators. Okay, it doesn't work. So you can see it doesn't work because if I take x here equals to size, it will be equal to size at some point. Then it's going to look at the value half the size minus size. So that means minus half the size. It's something that doesn't exist. It's yeah. So this is probably not the way to do it, but it's a good try. So let's see what happens. Size minus x. Sometimes playing with these is the way you're learning. So okay. I didn't expect it to work, to be honest. I thought that something else will happen, but seems to work, and seems that I'm getting these funny faces now. Basically, okay, I don't know how to explain this. I should have prepared some PowerPoint slides, but I didn't know I will do this effect. Yeah. Well, basically, x is going to be, x is between size divided by 2 and size. And size minus x is going to be between size divided by 2 and 0. Yeah, if you think about it, it does mirror this very well. So x is between size divided by 2 and size, and size minus x, basically here I get still size divided by 2, but here I get size minus size, which is gonna be 0. So I am actually getting the values as I want in this case. So I think that you were really close, but there was no need to do this divided by 2 there. Okay. How about any other ideas? What should we try? Okay, and now I don't have a head. Any other suggestions, ideas, what we could try here? Meanwhile, maybe you think about this. And meanwhile,
You
yeah.
cannot try to stack the effects.
try to stack the effects. Okay. Let's see. Well, I'm getting now this also invert color and this horizontal mirroring of the image. If I average the right and left sides, can you be more specific?
About the stacking or what?
No, I'm looking at Lasse's comment in the chat. He asked to average the right and left sides. Is David's comment also related to this Lasse's idea? I think that he might think to take the values from the left and add them, average them to the values on the right. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's see this weird average symmetry idea. So I'm gonna copy this apply symmetry idea from here, and here I need two pixel values. I need the pixel on the left and the current pixel on the right that I'm editing. So this one is not with size minus that. And I think that he wants me to do something like this. Pixel red plus the left pixel red plus the right pixel red, and divide this by 2. I have no idea what we're gonna get here. But since my picture is kind of symmetric anyway, because I'm in the middle, it could be interesting. Meanwhile, comment if this is not what you were thinking about. So okay, interesting. So yeah, basically it becomes see-through because it still keeps the, I mean, only see-through on this 1/2, but actually I don't need to do this for loop on 1/2. With this effect, I think that I could start at 0 and affect both parts of the image, because now I'm using these average values, so it's not just copying from the other half to from 1/2 to the other half. It's averaging from both halves. So I don't need to do it just on half the part. And basically what is happening is the same thing as if you would flip the image and show it on top of each other with half transparency or something like that. So it's kind of interesting what is happening here. I didn't expect this to happen, but yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. So I got it what you meant. So it's interesting. It's to me it's pretty much the same as mirroring the image and putting it on top. But actually we can try that. So let's try mirror. So apply mirroring. Yeah, let's modify again this apply symmetry. And in this mirroring, I don't want to do just half of the image to change. Okay, I will get to this soon. Let me just let me comment this part out first. Okay, so the thing is, now I'm lifting up my right hand, and here in the image, I see my left hand being up. What I mean by mirror is that if I would hold a mirror in front of my face, I would see this when I do that. So actually coordinating in this way, in this flipped view, is very difficult. And you may want to have a feature where you see yourself as in the mirror. So what I want to do now is basically flip all the pixels horizontally so that I'm taking, for 0, I'm taking size, for 1, I'm taking size -1, for 2, I'm taking size -3, and so on until the end. I want to try if mirroring this can be coded. So how do I do that? I think it's quite easy. I think it's just starting here at 0 to size and then getting the opposite value. And that's it, I think. Nope. No, this is doing something weird. I think this is doing some swapping twice. Yeah, I'm applying this correct code, but it's not doing what I expect here. So, so for the first pixel here, oh yeah, it's swapping twice. It's swapping twice because it first takes the pixels on the left side and it swaps the values. But then when it gets to the second half of this for loop, the values on the first part are already swapped, I think. This is complicated. I think. Yeah, I don't think I can figure this one out. Anybody has ideas?
How about the deep copy and using that?
The deep copy, okay. Actually, yeah, good point. Let's try. Well, I don't need a deep copy. I just need an array here. Like this. So new data. And here I want new data of these values to become the value from here. Okay. And then I want to say ImageData.data is equal to new data. So now these are not existing in the beginning. They are just being populated as we are going through these for loops. And I also need to specify alpha values. Otherwise, I'm not sure what will happen. It could be that they are transparent. So note that I was actually ignoring alpha values until now because all of them are fully opaque pixels. But here they would be 0, I think. I'm not sure if this code will work. Could be that JavaScript complains about some missing indices. Let's try it. Okay, it doesn't work. So, why doesn't it work? Okay, somebody. Permutation inside the list. Oh, okay. Let's try that also. A good idea, but handle both pixels at the same time. Looping from the end. I don't know. Does this work? No. Still the same thing. Why is this not happening? So we get the X starting now from size. I think this has absolutely no effect whatsoever. So I just revert to this. So here I'm getting new values coming from the pixel location opposite of in horizontal value, and it seems it just doesn't work. What happens if I go here just halfway? No, I think this is something. I think this might be something weird, some other bug that I'm not noticing. Yeah, reversing normal 1D array. Swap entries at the start and end of the list, and then repeat until you hit the middle entry of the list. Yeah, I get that. Okay, let's try the swapping. But first, I want to try something else because this is bothering me. Why is my code not seemingly not affecting here? Like anything I do seems not to affect. Okay, this does now something. But yeah, I will do the idea of swapping. Let's try this one. So swap entries and only go until the middle. Okay, so I'm going only until the middle now, and I'm getting the pixel value in the opposite. So let's say pixel right and pixel left is just going to be the value at X. So this is only on the only going on the left side, and I'm going to swap them. So basically, something like this. And now I want to put the data of the new pixel left where it is. I don't need to worry about the alpha values. And I also need to put the value of pixel right somewhere, but not at X. I need to put it at the mirrored location. So I think something like this. I think this is what Lasse was talking about, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure why the image data modification from earlier didn't work though. Okay, it works. Some weird side effect here on the left side of the screen. If you notice, there is some one pixel behaving weirdly. Basically, the one on the right is...
Radu?
Yes.
Don't you think the one where you were decreasing the value of size to 0 would work now? Maybe earlier because it was not working because of the reference. No.
Well, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter how you are going to do this loop, I think. It will still work. You mean this, right?
Yeah, only it has to be size. It has to start from size, not size over 2. Yeah.
It should be size over 2 because here we are swapping, right? And if we are swapping from the left, the first pixel gets swapped.
Yeah.
The second pixel,
I understand this one.
Yeah.
I was just asking if the previous one that you tried where you looped from size to 0 completely would work, not in...
I don't think so, because the same double swapping would happen. So after you start swapping and you reach the middle, then you go in the second half, and then the things start to re-swap back to where they began. And I think that the same was happening previously, even without me implementing the swap here intentionally, like as a separate step. So I think you just need to play with these and learn what the result is. But I find it really nice that you can work with the images from the canvas to learn these kind of simple matrix operations. And you don't need to input matrices. Like I remember when I was studying in high school, and we had to enter their matrix, like letter by letter, character by character, each entry, and then new line, and then like 10 minutes later, you have some matrix, and task was make it swap or something, make it symmetric or something, and you do it, but you enter the input in like 15 minutes. And with this method, you basically get one input 10 times a second, and you can immediately play with the results. So I think you may be correct that it is possible to do it by looping the whole thing, but I don't want to play with that anymore right now. And yeah, did I test this going in opposite direction? Yeah, so it still works, but there is this one problem here, this one line that is basically still, it's not being affected. So what is this? Can I fix it somehow? Any ideas? Should I go here including 0?
Yeah, is that? I think that's why.
Let's see. I'm not sure. By the way, there are so many ways to do these things once you learn them. So it didn't work. Still there. Any clues? Any ideas? Meanwhile, maybe you can try to think what the problem is. Meanwhile, I make a way to transition between these effects. So let's say here effects, and I'm going to make an array. The first one is going to be called normal, and do I need them to have these, or is just the text enough? So I plan to copy these ones from here, and let's add here basically nothing. So I just, yeah, I don't apply any effect if it's the normal case. So yeah. Let's see. I have some message in the chat. Take off the divided by 2 in the size. Okay. Let's see if my code still works, because I'm working on it. No, this basically swapped it back again. So now I lost the mirroring effect when I did this. I basically swapped the left with the right, and then after I get them to the in the second half, after the midpoint, I will swap the right with the left back again. So this needs to be done only on half of the image. Now the hand is on the right, but I'm still getting this weird thing there. Can anybody help? Okay, and maybe I do something like this. So which index from this list of effects I'm going to show, and this is going to be 0. And here I'm going to say effects of the given index, and let's have a function for change effect, or next effect. I think it's more clear, and I'm going to say effect index plus plus, and if it's becoming greater than the effects, the number of effects that we have, then start at 0 again. And this next effect is going to happen as we click on the canvas. So I could put here an on click. Now refreshing the page. There is nothing happening to my image, but if I click on it, now I'm getting the inverse effect from here, the invert color. I'm getting this weird symmetry. I'm getting the mirroring, which still has this bug. And then I'm getting this average similarity here, and stacking of effects. I just combined the symmetry with this invert of the colors in the stack variant. And when I click again, it's back to normal. So I would like to also write the name of the effect here on the top. Let's do that. But first, okay, so you are getting the right pixel and then the left pixel. But do you swap them, or what do you do with them afterwards? So yeah, I still don't follow when you swap. Okay, meanwhile, I still write the top there. So, or did I get some update? Okay, let me see. So we have the right pixel, the left pixel, and you start at 0, and you go to size. Okay, so you have like this, the right, the left, and then what I have. Okay, does this work? And now I think I have to click excessively many times. Nope. So it's back to the beginning. It's basically the normal with the weird pixel here in this small corner, black pixel. What is this? Okay, something very weird is happening now. So some swap is failing. I can't seem to get it right. But meanwhile, okay, maybe somebody figures out what I should write there. Meanwhile, until then, let me write also the name of the effect there. So apply some effect. And let's just write it here. So maybe I'll use white color for the text. Font, let's say I think I can put it somewhere, maybe middle of the horizontal space. What? Are we over time? Like many minutes over time? Sorry, I didn't look at the time for a long time, but I think you got the idea. So I didn't plan to make a number of effects. I just wanted to show that pixel manipulation is possible, and you can play with these and make almost anything you want at the pixel level. And if it's just these kind of simple operations, then this can happen in real time with the canvas of 100 by 100 pixels. You can do even more. I think you can go up to as good resolution as your camera has actually, but when I'm teaching this, I have to to record the screen sharing and things like that. So I prefer to have a smaller canvas size here. So sorry this took longer. I just noticed now that it's 2 o'clock. Do you still have any questions, or is this it for today? I will just add the title on top of this canvas so that you know what you are looking at. And that's the code for today.